Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Wow. So this is going to be my review. I'm going to wait for some people to come in, and this is going to be my review of the She-Hulk show. So, what did I think of the show? What were my, you know, it's the finale today. I watched it a couple hours ago. I was kind of mulling over it in my mind and thinking about the She-Hulk show, and you know, whenever we have these MCU projects, I like WandaVision, Loki, all the series. They're you sort of have these expectations, and I think our expectations going into any of the shows were quite high. Um, and the reason for that was we were kind of coming off of the whole Infinity Saga. Those movies sort of set the bar. They set the bar for all things Marvel related from here to the future. That we'd sort of expected the best of the best, and a lot of the time we gotta kind of be realistic about our expectations. One of the things is when you're making a movie, you can make movies amazing because you got the budget. You got huge amount of money to build a big project, right? You got usually budgets for those blockbuster movies is like $200 to $300 million just to play with and go crazy with, do whatever stunning visuals you want, to do all that stuff. And that's the MCU, being able to go over the top, building these amazing movies that we all love. And that expectation that the TV series, all the different ones, would be at that level was unrealistic. And if you look at older TV series, like if I watched the original Hulk when back from the 70s, and the original Wonder Woman's, like, it's not Marvel, but and I watched even the original Spider-Man stuff, and there's some Japanese version which is kind of cool too. But if you watch older TV series, the expectation is, oh, they have a TV budget, so they can't do those cooler special effects. There's a budget, and so the point is that when we go into these movies, these big MCU movies, we expect high standard. We can't expect that same standard for the TV series. However, here's where I have to get into the She-Hulk thing. And this is what I really want to explain is I'm actually impressed by the visuals. Whenever they showed She-Hulk, I wasn't so impressed, but there was a lot of stuff that they did visually that was pretty awesome. I mean, I would say even with WandaVision, with Loki, with all of the series, their visuals were actually pretty good. They did a pretty impressive job. Actually, not too much of a downgrade from those cinematic movies. And that's what I kind of wanted to emphasize here, that the reason I'm disappointed with She-Hulk, and I have to say that I'm super disappointed with She-Hulk, isn't because of the visuals. It's not because the visuals didn't meet my expectations. And that's usually the complaint that they'll say, oh, you're expecting too much because you're expecting it to be like those big movies. And that is true. That is true. That could be a reason to be, say, oh, I didn't like the She-Hulk series because it didn't meet up to those big movie standards. But that's not the case. That wasn't my complaint. That's not going to be my complaint going about this movie or TV series. She-Hulk, if you watch my other reviews, I kind of gave it a lot of opportunity. I really wanted She-Hulk to be a great series because I read the comic. I enjoyed the comic. I expected her to be kind of like Deadpool in that respect, where that breaks the fourth wall and does all these cool things. And I was, hoping for something fun. Marvel in the last little bit has sort of forgotten that that it has serious issues to tackle. If you watch the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire, those movies had some serious consequences and things that they were dealing with, and there was a serious tone to it. The recent MCU stuff has been more lighthearted and like joke every 5 seconds, and I thought that, and also another thing with the I have to say this as well. Another thing with the recent stuff from MCU is they do a lot of the gender swaps and the race swaps. And She-Hulk actually presented a really great opportunity because they didn't have to do any race swaps. They didn't have to do, in the Loki series, it wasn't Loki series. It was the Sif, what's her name? That girl, the girl Loki series, and, hey, Jacob. Yeah, so it was, they did that kind of bait and switch thing. But with She-Hulk, they didn't have to do that. She-Hulk is the woman, and she's that, thing that they want to promote anyways. So I didn't expect there to be that weakness that we had to worry about, oh, is it really going to be a She-Hulk thing, but it's, bait and switch? No, they didn't have to do that because it was She-Hulk. And they, they had the joking thing. They could do that. They could go really wild with it because if you read the comic, it is funny. It's breaking the fourth wall. It's doing all these kind of cool things. They didn't have to worry about holding back on the jokes. They didn't have to worry about the gender swap. They didn't have to do any of that. So I thought, okay, this is an opportunity. They have their female character. They can run with that female character. And what can they do with that female character? And hi, Brian. So the thing is, I was really expecting, this would be their opportunity to shine, really shine. And the visuals, I knew that they based on the other series, they had been pretty strong and solid all through. So they had everything going for them, everything that you can't really complain about, because they didn't have to do some of the things that you had to worry about. But when I watched the She-Hulk series, I felt like it was missed opportunity after missed opportunity. It was insane. It was insane to me how they kept on doing things, and it's like, what were the writers thinking? The whole time I was like, what are the writers thinking? Like, when they first start out, the first thing that they do, the very first episode, and this is what I complained about when I watched the first episode, was the very first thing they did was they lectured us, the male, men, the men that are watching these shows, the men that support the MCU, they lectured us on how bad we are as men and how sexist we are. And like, it was just, that was the very first thing that they did. That was the very first impression. And I was like, oh man, I thought maybe in the second episode, I thought, oh, maybe they're going to have her, she's on this high horse of, female supremacy. I don't know, female supremacy. And she was going to get kicked off that pedestal and realize that maybe men aren't so bad. I thought maybe there's a hope, maybe that they could do that. But no, that wasn't the way they're going to go. There was nothing in this that you couldn't predict if you just read any woke agenda propaganda. You could just say, oh, it's going to be a bad white guy that's going to be the bad guy. And, She-Hulk is going to go through trouble, but it's not real trouble. It's not even a problem. She won't even have any consequences. It's going to be easy. It's going to be, she's going to, it's going to look like she has a big consequence, but no, it's next episode. It's like, it's all forgotten. And that's generally what I saw. Like, if you watched the previous episode, the one before the finale, it ends with this big crisis. Okay, we got this big crisis. She goes full Hulk, and it looks like here's an opportunity for her to realize how wrong she was about Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner, who she was like, oh, I'm a woman. I experience like so much more trouble than you would ever experience. I have to deal with hate much more than you would ever have to do. I have to deal with anger much more than you would ever have to do. And Bruce Banner, that he was, basically kicked off the planet for his danger to the planet. Like that is the levels that he was at, and he had to deal with half the human population getting killed in the snap. He was dealing with those big issues, and her being a woman, she had it much worse. She was catcalled once. That was the kind of level, and I kind of hoped that there would be this kind of redemption for her, like not understanding that other people have struggles too, that other people have much bigger struggles than she does. And I was kind of hoping that at the end of last episode, she would kind of realize that and come into that whole understanding that, hey, maybe I was wrong about Bruce. He really does have to deal with anger, and it can destroy his life so easily, because she freaked out. People saw her as this crazy Hulk, and she would have to deal with that anger management problem. And the real consequence of being a superhero in terms of her power, and having to deal with real life at the same time. And I thought this is an opportunity to really, really make this character work. And what did they do? This finale, what did they do? Like, it's just like, they had this great opportunity to really make She-Hulk a great character. One sec here, I'm going to answer this thing. The show was self-earned inserts of mid-30 liberal rich women. This show was their idea of diversity since they had never experienced the real deal. Very much the case. That is so true, Jacob. It's really bad. So I really do like, my original opinion of the show was it was written by, that 30 to 40-year-old cat lady woman, that is like never going to have children. That's going to, like, her children are her pets, and I really thought that was the writers behind this. And I think I was right. I was definitely right. They have no sense of real people. They have no sense of real men. They have no sense of real women. And they wrote the story without looking at opportunities. Like a good writer can take like a bad situation. So, at the very last, previous episode, there was a bad situation. Really great opportunity to character build, to story build, do something with that. A great writer would be like, this is gold. I'm like, I got so many things I could do with this. A bad writer, which just seems to be the people that they hired for the She-Hulk show, would take that opportunity and say, well, I don't really know how to solve this situation. What if we know that she breaks the fourth wall? What if we just make her break the fourth wall altogether and just step off the show? And she's like stepping off the show. She doesn't have to deal with all these problems, and who wants to deal with those problems? It's just too complicated. I don't really want to deal with all those problems. I just want an easy solution. I just want to keep it simple, and let's have her walk away from it, and her let She-Hulk, because she's a great, powerful, strong, glamorous woman. she should be able to write the story herself, and it's her story. It should be like, not these toxic males that are on the internet, saying mean things about her. It's not their story. It's She-Hulk's story, and let her write the story. So that's what they did. There was all these opportunities to make some exciting finale, and what do? They set it up where it looks like maybe they could do something fun. They have Titania bursting through a wall. They have the bad guy taking the Hulk serum and becoming a Hulk. They have Bruce Banner jumping in. This could be like an epic battle. Maybe the dumbest setup for it, maybe the most contrived setup for it, but at least it could be an epic battle. We could finally see some action, which any male viewer is going to be like, yeah, action, like some cat fights, some coolness, something. Um, Even Abomination, he's like actually maybe cool again. Instead of this wussified like guy that is just like, oh, kumbaya. Like, I just like, what kind of abomination is that? Like, it's an abomination to abomination. It's just so crazy. And yeah, one sec here. I gotta answer this. Think Hope season 2 will deal with these issues that you are talking about, since season 1 ended with a full Hulk, her going full Hulk? What do you think? If Marvel is smart, there is no season 2. Just, this is hopeless. It is, they had so many opportunities to make this a good show, and they just proved that they can't make a good show. I think the viewership is not going to be there for them to justify a second season. If they do go a second season, I don't know who's going to watch it. So even if she does address these issues, who knows who would even bother watching it at this point? It's just, they really they are really pushing away the fan base. I can see that they throw bones at the fans. Like, there were some things that I want to say that I really loved about She-Hulk. Like, actually legitimately loved about She-Hulk. In this last episode, there's a part where they do this kind of homage, or kind of a throwback to the original Hulk series, where they do like, and it was in the trailers before the She-Hulk series came out, and I thought, oh, when is this going to be part of the series? And then it was in the last episode, where they do this throwback where they show her, and they almost show the Luke Ferrigno, whatever his name is, version of the Hulk as a She-Hulk. And I thought that's pretty fun. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty cool. And I liked that. And that's how the episode starts. And I thought, man, this is actually pretty good. And I liked the throwback. I liked the way that they, kind of played with the consequences of her story. I enjoyed that. And it shows that there is talent at Marvel, that there are people that can do the visuals really, really well. They just need writers. They just need to get away from this woke stuff, go back to writing real stories that people can really enjoy. I think it's just missed opportunity after missed opportunity. So yeah, I don't think the show cracked the top 10 in ratings of any of the 9 episodes. I can believe that. What was there for people to watch that would make it so that this is a must-see TV? Only people that go to watch it are people like me. I'm a diehard. I feel like I'm a misogynist in this case. Like, I really do. I really feel like I'm a misogynist, and I just go back and back. Beat me some more. Okay, please beat me some more. Like, it's just like, that's what I feel like when I watch these shows. It is like punishment. It's just punishment for loving comics too much. And I go in and I have high hopes that this time is going to be different. And they say, no, surprise, not different. Boom, pop me over the head. And that's generally what I feel like with these shows. And there was a real, like, in this show, you could tell they were not hiding the fact that they hate the fans, that they hate people like me, especially people like me. And what I mean by that is white. They hate white people. They hate males. That is for sure. Because there's a scene where they have the group meeting for the people, like for the King Hulk group, where they're basically a bunch, it looks like they're incels, that kind of trope. And they basically have them all meeting, and they meet, and they're all going about, oh, women nowadays, blah, blah, blah. It's like they're all misogynists. They all hate women. They, they're like, oh, they're talking about merit. That's a kind of a typical right-wing thing to say, oh, I believe in merit over, equality, blah, blah, like all this kind of stuff. And they were really trying to put all the stereotypes about the evil white supremacist, right winger, like, and it was just like a group of men venting about the evil woke culture. And actually, I thought, wow, this is what they think of us. This is how they view us. And they don't understand that it's those people who complain about She-Hulk that love She-Hulk the most. That's what they don't get. It's not that we hate She-Hulk. It's that we hate this She-Hulk. We hate this show. It's not, that's what they don't get. And, and then they put us down. Like, it was funny. Like, if you looked at that audience in that scene where it's like, all the different right wingers or the evil misogynists, they're all men. One is wearing a hard hat. One is wearing like like the typical flannel top. It's like every stereotype about redneck, white supremacists basically. And I was just surprised that they weren't wearing hoods. That's the level of understanding that they have of people that have a different opinion than they do. That's really all it is. We have a different opinion than they do. It's not that we hate She-Hulk. It's like we hate them. They're annoying. And it's just that's what drives me crazy. So like, I wish they would listen to the fans instead of insulting the fans. And if they started listening to the fans and making shows for the fans, and it doesn't mean like when I actually mentioned this, that they threw bones to the fans. And when I say they threw bones, there was a scene where at the end, spoilers. Oh, I forgot to mention spoilers. But there was a scene at the very end of the She-Hulk show where they show them all sitting around the table, and they're talking about, oh, welcome to my life, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. And Hulk comes there, Bruce Banner, and he's like, oh, I've been away, I was at Sakaar, and so kind of setting up Planet Hulk, which is kind of cool. And the fans would be like, oh, they're talking about Planet Hulk, this is going to be really cool. And then he says, hey, I have to show you my son. Those were throwing bones to the fans. That was them saying, hey fans, we gave something for you. We might have beaten you throughout the shows, like we really hate you and all that, but here's something that you might like. And that was it. And the way that they did it is like almost disappointing. It was like, it reminded me of those end credit trailers where they, end credit scenes where they put in like some little scene that kind of hints at potential movies that they might make. And it was just really, really sad. Like it felt forced. It felt like, they didn't even care. It's like even the characters in the scene didn't care that was something there. It's just really, really, really sad. This show really highlights, if you bring valid criticism to the table, you're going to get pounced on and called phobes. Yes. Ist and phobes. Yes. That is so true. Like, that's what they think of the fans. They think we are all a bunch of misogynists and homophobes and istophobes and blah blah blahs. It's like they really think we're terrible. Like, and it's really sad. Yeah, so the CGI looked like Shrek. I am actually going to push back on that. I think it looked worse than Shrek. Shrek was better. Like, it's just like, it was so bad. Yeah, absolutely terrible. Yes, you're right about that. It was horrendous CGI on that. It was like, at least try. At least try with the CGI. I mean, just try, please. It's just so many things like that. It just really drive me crazy. Okay, wait. Rick Decker says, I haven't watched the show yet. Disney Plus has been mediocre at best so far. I stopped watching after the Hawkeye. I think MCU might be over, really. Um, so here's the hope part. I actually, I titled this thing with, is there any hope? And I actually do see a lot of hope, which might sound weird. I'm being pretty critical. I'm hoping that the fans and the people that truly do love the comics like I do, that the people that care, and we do, I actually mean care, speak out and say, hey, look, we don't hate you. We don't hate you, She-Hulk. We love you, She-Hulk. But can you please make a good She-Hulk? Can you please make a good Moon Knight? Can you please make a good Falcon? Can you please make a good whatever? That, like Hawkeye is another one, like where he wasn't even in his own show, basically. Um, these kind of things. What I'm hoping is that the fans will walk away, that people will say, okay, I'm done with the MCU. It is not going to be good. And they walk away. Marvel suffers. They really have to suffer. And then the people that are the bean counters at Marvel, there are bean counters there that basically say, wait, what's going on with our profits? Why are we not making any money? Those people kick in and they say, hey, look, we have to make money. I consider this the Zakharov effect, where what happened with DC, where they basically said, hey, look, if you keep on injecting crap into our movies, we're not going to make any money. So I'm going to cut those movies and I'm going to make only good movies. And I think that's what has to happen with the MCU. Now, there is talent there. There are like some really talented people at Marvel. And that's what I'm hoping. Because like, could you imagine if they actually had a good script and a good story, and with all the ability that they seem to have with the visuals? Like, I mean, they seem to have some really great people that understand the visuals, and some really great people that can make like these pretty epic, like for the TV. Like if you look at the standard, these shows in terms of the visuals are actually pretty high standard for TV, really high standard. And what I'm hoping is that they get the woke people, kick them out and say, hey, look, you don't have a home here because you don't really like us anyways. Just get out. And they bring in new writers. There are good writers that have been sort of outcasted by the current woke agenda, that can come in and write good stories again. They have, like, one of the things that people you don't even need a great writer. Actually, that's the funny thing with Marvel and DC. You don't need a great writer. You don't. It sounds crazy for me to say that. You don't need a great writer because they have like 80 years of content to pull from. There's lots of great stories that they can pull from, and all you need to do is bring that to the small screen or to the big screen, and you could do like a lot of stuff. You don't even need the great writers because you already had the great writers. You had some of the best comic writers in history to pull from and to say, hey, look, we can just take those stories. Why not? All you have to do is mix the two things. Great writers from the past plus great visuals from the future, like where we are now, and mix the two together, and you will have shows that will astound people, that people will love, that people will write about, their grandchildren will write about them. It'll be one of those things that people will be so excited to go to watch, rewatch. We have an opportunity to make classic, television and movies. And I feel like it's just such a missed opportunity. And I'm just hoping that, people like myself, people like you guys are watching this, will speak out and say, hey, look, we love you, Marvel. We do. We really do love you. But please don't hate us. That's all we ask. Just don't hate us. Just stop hating us and make the shows that we want to watch. Hi, Lady Pop Hunter. Great to see you watching my live show. um, you know, so yeah, Ron Decker. Yeah, so there is hope, but it won't happen. Yeah, you're right. Probably. I actually do have some like I'm one of those people that kind of can see the future or the writing on the wall. You know, it's amazing to me that after WandaVision, after Loki, after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, after Hawkeye, after now She-Hulk, Moon Knight, that's been a lot of failures like that Marvel has come out with. And, you know, there is a point where they will have to realize that we can't continue making these failures. And I'm really hopeful that the people that are behind the scenes at Marvel, the ones that control the money at Marvel, will basically be like, no more. We can't do this anymore. You're bleeding us dry. You're going to kill the company if we keep going down this road. Go woke, go broke is such a true thing. It's not instant, but it is something that will definitely happen. You know, yeah, it seems like they are bankrupt. Yeah, bankrupt in terms of the people involved. But my point is, like, I think if the people that are like the shareholders that basically say, hey, look, you got to start making money, and the only way that they can make money is, stop with the agenda. People don't like to be preached to. You can, like, the funny thing is, like, I read Golden Age. I love Golden Age comics. I love Silver Age comics. And even in those books, there was some social, activism that was happening in those comics. And the way it was written, though, was so much better. They actually had stories that would engage people, that made people care about the characters. Like the way it's written now, that, and this is why I always sort of criticize wokeness, is basically you can sort of pick just by once you see a visual of the who's going to be in the show. If it's a white man, villain. If it's a black woman, she's going to be either maybe bad at the start, but redeems herself somehow, becomes like, she's super smart, she's going to be super great, and then she's going to become a hero. And that's, they like to seem to do that narrative. Like I give a good example of that, which is in Star Wars, with Reva. She starts out bad. She is actually horrible, and somehow she's redeemed at the end. It was insane. Um, it was like, that's the kind of thing that they like to do. They always like to show women as being flawless, and they're always the best there. And men, oh, men are so horrible. They always, and that's, you can write story after story like with that kind of woke agenda. But that's not how real people behave or act, and that doesn't appeal to people because it's boring. It's like, there's no, like, a character being black, white, Hispanic, whatever they are, isn't what they are. Like I was telling this to somebody recently. When I was growing up, like, I grew up in the eastern part of Canada, and maybe there was like up till high school, I didn't even have any black people in my school. Like, just, there was none. It was primarily all white. There was some Asian kids that were in my class later on, um, and that was it. It was just, that's how it was back then. And it wasn't that we were discriminating or anything like that. It was just it was how it was. But the point is, uh, I didn't think of those Asian kids that were in my class, or there was an Indian girl that I actually had a crush on. There, I didn't think of them as being like Asian or Indian or anything like that. I just thought of them as being my classmates. And I sort of was brought up in this colorblind society. And, I sort of went through that my whole childhood. that I kind of like, thought that this is the way it was. We don't really, there's so many more important things than a person's like gender or race and all that kind of stuff. I was more concerned about their personality, the way that they thought, all that. That was more important to me than any of these identity, the things that nowadays seems to be the most important thing. All of those things didn't matter to me. And then I met my wife, who's a Korean woman, and she was like, "Oh, you're a white guy." I'm like, "White guy? What does that even mean?" Like, I didn't even know. Never referred to myself as white. It was actually, that was the first time I ever heard uh, my, like, what the way I look like as white. I never even referred to that. I never even thought about that. It never even crossed my mind. And I never referred to Asian people as being Asian. I just referred to them by, hey, they're Bob, Jim, whatever. It's like, I didn't really think of people that way. And it's just the way that, and then after that, I felt like there was a shift. And it wasn't that my wife caused the shift, but there was a shift, not just in the way that I saw the world, but the way the world saw the people in the world. And it just became more and more pushed that the most important thing that defines each of us is our, like, our identity, like whether we're white, whether we're male, whether we're straight, whether we're gay, whatever. And I found that that has been pushed so much that what makes a person really interesting, in my opinion, their personality, all these kind of more important things, has been pushed down. And you see that in the writing, is my point. That when they write these characters now, you don't see anything more than their identity, their racial or gender or sexual preference identity. And to me, that's the least interesting component of the character. And that is something that that we have to get over. I mean, it's just it's making everybody hate each other. It's like the worst way of thinking about people. Um, and once we get over that and we kind of go back to the old style, which is the style that I liked, where we look at people's personality and, you know, like, we judge people based on the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. Good old Martin Luther King. Then I think we can have a better TV, better shows, better culture. I think things have really gone far away from that, and I really I worry. I do worry. I do think that like Marvel is going to have to suffer a lot more before they can realize the truth that all this stuff that they're pushing isn't helping anyone. It's making things worse. And it is something that will ultimately just cause their downfall, because nobody wants to be preached to. Nobody wants to experience this kind of stuff. And yeah, until that happens, it's going to be hard times. I'm sort of worried that, I'm worried about this one other thing that I do see happening. Whenever they make whatever show it is that they make, you really have to look at the culture 2 years prior. Because if you look at the MCU list that they're coming out with, all the shows that they're coming out with, they're not coming out for 2 years. They're written now, but they have to produce them, they have to make them, and there's like a whole bunch of moving parts that take years to do. And then they release them 2 years later. So whatever the culture is now, that is what's going to get reflected 2 years later in the movie. And so what we're seeing, anything that's came out now, is really stuff that was really 2000, like 2020, 2019 era, that kind of time period, where those kind of predominant social issues were kind of influencing what movies are, or TV series are. And that's my concern, that we're still in a very woke culture right now, this identity politics culture. And until our culture shifts it'll take 2 years for the movies and all that kind of stuff to catch up to the culture of the society. And that's my only concern, that we might be still out a little while before we actually get the shows that we really want. And that's my concern. That's my biggest concern. Yeah, so one sec here. Open by chance. Writers today want us to believe that how a person looks or how they identify themselves is somehow more important than what they do or how they are. Yeah, and that's the big problem. Actually, another big problem that I see with characters nowadays, and this is a really huge problem, is I actually question their morals. I actually question their moral judgments. Like, like they just have no concern for other people. Like they are narcissistic. They just self-absorbed, and just not good people, like morally corrupt people. That they're showing as these really great characters. Like if you look at the She-Hulk character, what is she? She's a narcissist. She's like, my problems are all the world revolves around me, and and the whole time the whole society actually feeds into that in the show if you watch it. Where they keep on saying, "Oh, you're the best lawyer. She's the best lawyer. She's nominated to be the best lawyer," and all this kind of stuff. Why? What did she do that deserves to be the best lawyer? And whenever she does anything, everyone's like, "Oh, you're so great. You're so wonderful." What did she do that was so great and so wonderful? It's just morally bankrupt. It would be the kind of expression that I would use for this. It's just, and they're so full of themselves. Like that one scene, I really do feel like this one scene really encapsulates the whole series, where Bruce Banner is really going out of his way to help her, and he's trying to teach her to control her anger because it's so important. And then she basically says that she's dealt with more anger issues than he would ever have to, because she's a woman somehow. That just shows how narcissistic and self-absorbed they are. And it's just, who likes that kind of person? I have a big ego sometimes. Sometimes I come across as having a big ego, and I actually hate myself when I do that. When I come across as being kind of arrogant or self-absorbed, I'm like, oh, I don't even like myself. I'm gonna dial it down a bit, and just sort of say, I'm sorry, I really hope that didn't come across, the way it sounded. And I dial it back, and because when you come across as being that like egotistical and self-absorbed, you can feel the mood in the room will change. Like people will not like you, and you will not like yourself. So the way the characters are in these shows, I can't see how they can like themselves or how anyone around them can tolerate them. They're just too obnoxious. So a question: the character and morality of the actor who plays that character, that part. Yeah, like I'm gonna give the actors a little bit of a break. A little bit, because like at the end of the day, what is an actor? They're just somebody that gets a script, they read the script, and they play the role. And I'm going to give them a bit of a break. I don't know these people in real life. Maybe they're better people. Maybe they're the most wonderful people in the real world. I put the blame more on the writers. I really feel like the people that are making this show, they have some moral issues. As I said, I feel like they're cat women. Just the ones that have a cat and just never dealt with the real world. They might deal with their own little circle of friends, but they never dealt with real people. And they might not. They never dealt with having children, because I really feel like they like one of the things, like as a parent, this is something that I've experienced, was before I had a child. No, it was all about me. It was the world surrounded, I was the center of the world. And as a parent, I realized very quickly that the world does not revolve around me. It does not revolve around me. It is the children who the world revolves around. And your sleep gets interrupted, your way of living gets interrupted, your ego goes down the hill. Like once you start changing diapers, you're like, oh man, you're dealing with crap, and you really are dealing with crap. And that really takes you to a new direction, and it makes you grow as a person, because you're not such egotistical, self-absorbed person anymore. You are now having to be responsible for somebody else. And that learning curve that you go through, and that growth curve from being a parent, is important. It's really important uh, as your own personal character development. And if you're a writer, you write from your own personal experience. That's what all writers do. It's hard not to. You kind of write from that. And what I feel is they haven't gone through that personal experience. They haven't gone through that growth. They're immature. They are and if you never went through that, and you went through all your your 20s and into your 30s, and you've never experienced that joy and pain of being a parent, then you will be morally bankrupt, and you will be corrupt, in my opinion. Okay, wait, open by chance. Okay, following up on Lady Pop Hunter, the actor did read the script, so they are going into the role knowing what to expect. They must see how it is in I'm, my I don't have reading glasses, so this is always challenging. In negotiations for the part. Okay, yes. Okay, I'm trying not to blame the actor. You're trying to force me to blame the actor, and maybe you're right. Maybe maybe you're right. Hi, Vinny. Maybe you're right. Maybe the actor does bear some blame. I'm trying not to blame the actor. Like, you're trying to make me. I'm trying to focus on the writers, but maybe the actor does have some responsibility. If the actor is somewhat like reasonable, and they would like, if I was the actor and I got this crazy script, and I saw, oh, this is how you want me to behave. I don't think people behave that way. I don't really want to like be that kind of character. Can we tweak it this way, or like, um, sure, I could see that, and maybe they are they maybe they're slightly to blame, but also there is the paycheck. They're probably paid very well, and sometimes people do things despite the fact that they might question whether or not it is the right thing to do. Another thing is, with the whole Hollywood element, I really do believe that Hollywood is in their own little bubble. And this bubble is like in a different reality than our reality. Like, it's just like they think that that black people are all oppressed, and that those evil white straight men, they're the ones that are oppressing everybody. And and women, nobody's ever listened to a woman, and women have always been not looked over and never given an opportunity to take the role of the lead, and all this kind of stuff. And they probably believe all that. That's their bubble. They kind of believe in that kind of agenda. And so maybe the actor reading this thing says, oh wow, this is finally a time to stick it to the man, to stick it to those evil white supremacist straight males that are oppressing us women. And maybe that's the way that they came across, because maybe that's the way that they thought this would be, and they were right. That they could basically take it out on the patriarchy, like all that kind of stuff. So you're saying that the writers have the morals and personality of a child. Wait, I can see that. Yeah. What I'm not actually saying a child. I'll give them adolescence, but they're still like just not fully developed, if that makes sense. I don't want to criticize the writers too much in terms of their development, but definitely they are less developed emotionally, so within their own personal character development. Yes, I would definitely say that. I would say that they are what I remember of my own 20s, that kind of development. Really, like I really have to thank my children for really taking me from that man baby or man child kind of state to being somebody that's a little bit more responsible, that is responsible not just for my own stuff but for somebody else, and really learning to be empathetic and to understand other people's stories and situations. And I really am thankful for my children and that whole being a parent thing. And sometimes I always like, as a parent, you always worry that you failed as a parent. And that I know that, and that's something I always do worry about. I always want to be a better parent, and like, I worry about that. And I think that worry is something that comes with that experience, that you become more uh, external in your way of thinking, that you're not always just thinking about, oh, me, the whole world's around revolves around me. And that is a really important lesson to learn in life, and that's just so important. So yeah, so I definitely think that they might not have experienced that because it's just the way that they write. And if they have children, I pity those children. I really worry about those children, because if they write with this, you can't write the way that they wrote and not have those kind of lessons learned. Where you have to, like, especially one of the things that people who don't have children, don't have husbands or wives, don't realize is the importance of that nuclear family. That nuclear family is essential. Like, I rely on my wife. She relies on me. And, it's not that we're like, even though I'm the breadwinner of the family, like I earn the money for the family. My wife is a housewife, actually. But she's actually going back to work. She just took some time off. So, but for the last 3-4 years, I was the sole breadwinner for my family. And even though we're living in the patriarchy in terms of my house, I'm the breadwinner and all that kind of stuff. We don't see each other as being like, oh, I'm the superior guy and I dominate. Oh, get in the kitchen, woman, make me a sandwich. No, I don't see it that way. And she doesn't see it that way. We are equals in this relationship. She helps support me by keeping the house clean, by taking care of the kids, by driving them all over the place. She's like the chauffeur for the kids. We work together. We both manage the kids as well. And she helps me, you know, in so many ways. And I rely on her and she relies on me. And that once you create that interdependence between man and woman, you realize that you can't look upon other women as being like these terrible creatures, and she can't look upon men as being terrible creatures, because we do see the value in what the other gender brings to the equation. And that is really, really important. And I think writers should have that knowledge, because if you come from a very self-centered existence as a writer, um, and you think, oh, the patriarchy, blah blah blah, like let's bring it all down, and you're going to write without understanding what you're writing about. You're not going to understand the other side, because you never really experienced it. And as a parent, as a husband and wife situation, we've experienced that. We understand what that means. And as a couple, it's never 100%. There's always like, fights and trauma and within the household, but it's through, surviving all that, you become a better person, and you actually become more understanding of the other side. Men and women are different, and that's one thing that Hollywood doesn't seem to understand, that men and women are different, and we both have really important roles within our society. And until they realize that, it's going to be a mess in terms of what they write and what they create, because they're always going to be looking at it from the wrong perspective, that they don't have that fully developed perspective. I always think of the yin and the yang, where, in order to get the whole circle or the whole experience, you have to understand both sides. And what I find is Hollywood doesn't understand both sides. It just sees they see the other side as being like the negative, and they see their own side as being the positive. And they just see that as like, oh, we gotta get rid of that. If we just get rid of that other side, then we can be a full positive thing. And what they don't understand is that you need both sides in order to be complete. I just feel like it's so annoying. It just drives me crazy. What I just wish they would, you know, get out of their parents' basements. I'm not sure. Get rid of their cats, and get into a real relationship. Stop these like trash living that they do, and learn what it is to be a true person. Like, I don't know, just something on my mind. I just kind of a funny review of She-Hulk, isn't this? I keep on rambling about um, the issues with the writers and where I think that they're coming from. And I really haven't had to say much about She-Hulk. You can probably, just from what I'm saying, understand why She-Hulk was bad. Because if you're writing from these perspectives, if you're writing from this kind of self-centered worldview, there's no way you can write a good story. There's just no way. You are writing from inexperienced thing. Like, it used to be the case, I remember this way back in the day, that the way you become a great writer is you go out and live life. Be the adventurer, be the one that experiences everything. Go out and live. Go out and experience everything. Have a relationship, have get married, have kids, climb the biggest mountain, do all those things so you can write from experience and have that kind of understanding. I don't think the writers have gone through any of that personal growth that they need to be proper writers. And the characters in this story were kind of like that. They were all like superficial, no depth to the characters. Like, you look at the main bad guy, like his story at the very big, like, if you look, the main bad guy is the guy with the scarf around his neck. He's rich, and he's white, and he's misogynist. that's his character. Like, I just defined his whole entire character with what I just said there. At the beginning of the story, he's trying to date She-Hulk in a blind date situation, and he's just obnoxious. He's just talking about how he's kind of like almost like a fanboy to her. And then so that he's going to be the bad guy somehow, because he kind of comes across that way. It's kind of obvious. And then how does he develop? Well, he's the one, like, I bought the Wakanda spear. He's like, Wakanda forever. And typical, like, oh, he's just another one of those colonizers. Like, ugh. And then it goes on that he becomes a situation where he is the bad guy. He's revealed as the bad guy in the finale. And was there any arc there? Was there any development of that character? Nope. He's just the same character all the way throughout. No surprise. No real, like, even though we experienced 9 episodes, you don't really feel like you know the guy any better. You don't really feel like you know his motivations. You don't feel like you can understand him or appreciate him in any particular way. And you don't. And when they decide to end the story, they basically say, oh, well, we don't want to have a big fight scene. We just want to have it where uh, he is, he admits his guilt and he's taken away. Okay. And that's how it ends. It's like, well, that's not really much of a resolution. We don't really feel like there's any stakes to be had with that. We don't really feel like there's any interesting things there. Like what kind of story is that? What kind of experience is that? Not much. And so you don't care. You don't care. Like in order to really appreciate a bad guy, you have to really appreciate the bad guy. You have to really get to know them and to feel that there's something to that character, and that it's sort of like I feel like it's such a geek here. Well, this channel is the Comic Collector Geek, but I always think of Star Wars, and you look at Darth Vader, and you like in the original 3 movies. I have to preference that, but Luke, the whole time, Darth Vader is the worst man in history of the whole society of Star Wars. He's the worst person. He's going around blowing up planets. He is a bad person. And the whole time, Luke says, I see goodness in him. I see something else. I see more. And as the viewer, you're watching this, and because the main character is kind of saying that, you kind of like, oh, maybe there is something more. Maybe there is something there. Maybe there is something that can be salvaged from the darkness. And it makes you very intrigued. How is that story going to resolve itself? How can that redemption arc happen? And it makes that whole villain much more interesting. And it makes the hero more interesting too, because the whole time Luke is like, typically, in most stories, you get the hero and you get the villain. And what they do is they fight, and the hero is triumphant over the villain. Well, in the story of Star Wars, it's the hero wants to save the villain. It's such a weird story if you think about it. But in that story, and to me, it's one of the greatest movies and one of the greatest stories ever written, is the Star Wars series. In that resolution, we get the situation where we can see beyond just good and evil, and we can see that there is hope in everyone, and that is such a great lesson to learn. And when you kind of go through that whole trilogy of movies, you learn this really awesome lesson, and you feel like, wow, there is hope in other people. And that's just isn't that such a wonderful lesson to learn? Whereas, what did we learn from She-Hulk? What did we get from it? The bad guy is the same as he was at the beginning. He's actually worse. Maybe he's like a colonizer. He's a misogynist. He's the Istanphobe that all of us evil fans are. He is us in the way that Marvel views us. And actually, that's really what they're saying in the movie, in the TV series, that the main bad guy is us, the way that they view us. And there's no curve there. That there's no interesting like journey that we have to go through. And it's very hollow. It's a hollow victory. It's a hollow story, and just overall, it's very disappointing. It's just, and I just wanted to give you a comparison, like between the story of Star Wars and the story of She-Hulk. Like, really, what was the main bad guy? Nothing. There's nothing to him. Nothing that really excites you as a watcher of the show or as somebody that is interested in these characters. And it makes not only the villain seem hollow, but it makes the hero seem hollow. If I'm the Hulk and I fight a 2-year-old child and I beat that child up, that is not interesting. That is not a fair fight. And what we saw in this was not a fair fight. We didn't like we saw She-Hulk not being having something that is equivalent to her, or have something that she has to overcome as a challenge. And when you don't have that interesting challenge to overcome, you don't really have an interesting story to over. so, so yeah, so I really felt like this was like them beating a dead horse almost level of interesting, interesting villain. So yeah, so that's, I don't know. These are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your comments. What what you think of what I'm saying. I babble a lot. I go total anti woke so much. Sort of my thing. I get really annoyed by it all. And it's not that like what I always tell people is I don't hate anyone. I actually love like all these different people in our society. I just don't like these empty stories. I just hate it. It drives me crazy. So yeah, so I just love to hear people's opinions about this. I'd love to, yeah, I think, oh, thanks, thanks, Lady Pop Hunter. I appreciate it. And or even the past MCU movies, Loki, Winter Soldier, and Thomas are and are well developed villains. Uh, I would be sort of iffy on some of those. I really didn't like Winter Soldier. You're talking about the movies. So okay, sorry. Yes, the movies were great. I was thinking about Winter Soldier in being the the TV series. The character development of the hero, the villain in that was terrible. Um, you did not see the She-Hulk. Didn't look like something I would watch, but hearing your take on it, I do not think I missed anything. Yeah, you probably didn't miss anything. It is sad to say that. I mean, there were some cool things where, as I said, visually they did do some cool things. Uh, yeah. So yes, you meant the movies. Okay. I was like really worried when you said, "Oh, there was something in Winter Soldier." I'm like, "Oh, you mean the movie Winter Soldier?" Yeah. So I was a little bit shocked by that, but yes, you're right. The villain in that was great. I actually like Zemo. I think he's a great character. Um, but yeah, the the TV series not so much. Um, and as I said, it's really looking back 2 years prior, and that's where you're going to get the influence for what made those stories what they are. And if you look back 2 years ago, what do we have? We had all this social justicey crap that was kind of being the kind of dominant focus in our society. A lot of the times, I forgot what movie it was recently where where they basically said, "Oh, this character represents Donald Trump," or and they're still going on about that now in the movies and stuff like that, where they try to like push like, oh, like, wasn't he evil? Wasn't he a fascist? And they try to make characters based on Donald Trump, a parody of Donald Trump. And that happened how many years ago now? It's 2 years ago. So we still see it within the way that the writers are thinking. They haven't gotten over it yet. And the movies will reflect that for a little while longer, and it's kind of painful. I feel like they used a female Marvel character to further peddle the message. Yeah, the message is really painful. I'm a big fan of Critical Drinker. His show is really great. I actually recommend, like, he probably is going to do a review about this as well. Probably better than my review ever will be. But I really love when he goes, the message. I think that's hilarious. And it's really true. They really love pushing the message. And it's funny, if they ever kind of deviate from the message, they almost implode. They almost like they start killing each other. Like it's so funny how the left will eat itself, and it's really really funny how they do that. But yeah, they're really all about pushing the message, and I'm not really too keen on the message personally. I don't think the message is a good message. I think there's better messages to be pushing. I just an opinion. If you agree with me, you agree with me. If you don't, you don't. Um, I hope that people enjoyed this little live rant of mine, and I really do appreciate everyone that came, even if they just dropped in for a little bit to watch me rant. And yeah, I hope that the discussion, even after I finish this live recording, will continue in the comments below, because I'd love to hear people's opinions. I'd love to hear like their takes of what I said. Am I just totally out to lunch, or am I one of those evil white supremacists that we all hear about? Am I the bad guy? Maybe I'm the guy that She-Hulk will fight at the end. Tell me in the comments below. I'd love to hear people's opinions. And I'm not going to criticize people for their opinions. I even if I'm wrong about something, or if I don't agree with somebody else in the comments, I always love to hear those comments. I will debate you. I'll engage with you, and I'll listen to you, and I will respect you for at least having an opinion. That seems to be a really rare commodity nowadays, where people don't have their own opinions. They seem to have other people's opinions, and I don't really like that. So yeah, so I'd love to hear that in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Again, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. I'm trying to grow this channel. I'm trying to get more people to watch my videos. I don't always talk about this kind of political stuff. I don't generally like to talk about this political stuff. I only talk about it because, yeah. Yeah, careful. I think I hear the RCMP knocking on the door. Yeah, probably in Canada. Oh my goodness, they are so woke here. It is dangerous. You can't have an opinion against the message. Yeah, it's very funny. I actually do see that as an issue. So yeah, I'll probably get shadow banned after doing this video. Generally, that's what happens whenever I mention any of these topics. My channel will gets shadow banned for usually about a week. I lose a bunch of subscribers. It is I'm a person of like where I just can't hold my opinions to myself, and I'm a person of moral conviction. If I see something that I don't like, I have to say it. I have to tell the world that I really am bothered by it, and I don't see this as a good way of being. And sometimes I have to face the consequences of that. I don't, it is what it is. But if you believe in what I'm saying, this is where I kind of call upon the people that are watching now and that agree with me maybe, to help me build this channel and get the message out to more people, that we can fix this. We can fix this whole problem that we're experiencing in the MCU, in Marvel, by just being a strong community that pushes them. Like money at the end of the day will push them to make the right decisions. That's what I was trying to suggest, that there is hope. If we work as a community and we say, hey, look, no more, the buck stops here, we can actually change them. And I really do believe that. So if you agree with me, promote my channel, tell other people about it, tell them to watch this video, and yeah, vote with your dollars. Like, that's my whole point. Vote with your dollars. And I do believe that. So yeah, so thanks again. I really meant to stop this video like about 30 minutes ago, but again, I appreciate everyone for watching. Bye for now.